He's at home for the first time since 2007. Devin Booker exploded for 47, 8, and 10. Kevin Durant added another 31. And after the game, Clippers head coach Ty Lue spoke on the frustrations of not having Kawhi Leonard and Paul George healthy for this series.
The encouraging thing is, like, with our team, with PG and Kawhi healthy, we haven't lost a series yet, and so it's always in the back of your mind, like, what if? And, it's easy to say what if because a lot of guys get hurt, but it's just been, our luck the last 3 years.
Stephen A., availability is the best ability, right? We talk about that a lot during the football season. What should the Clippers do with Kawhi and Paul George?
Need an ISO. Put the camera on me right now, please. Steve Ballmer and the Los Angeles Clippers should force Kawhi Leonard to retire. I'm done. He needs to go home. Okay? It's over. I'm not in any way questioning the legitimacy of Kawhi Leonard's injury. A matter of fact, I'm fully embracing it. I've heard very, very alarming stories about his health. You see people talking about he's walking around all limping all the time. He is not a healthy individual. I'm not questioning his heart. I'm not questioning his courage. I'm not questioning any of that. The man's a two-time champion. He's a two-time MVP. I said it the other day, and I said it, and I regretted it only because we heard about some stuff that happened with his family, and I didn't know that was in the news and stuff like that. And I don't wish that enough. God bless you and your family, and I hope everything ends up well for everybody. But he is the absolute worst superstar you could possibly have on your team. He's barely ever there. And on top of it all, he does nothing to market or promote your franchise. Absolutely, positively nothing. He got $42 million this year. Him and Paul George are making identical dollars to the penny. $42 million in change this year, $45 million in change next year, and then a player option at $48 million. He couldn't go last year at all. Okay? Couldn't go this year when it counted. In the past, he couldn't go when it counted. Arrived in Toronto telling them, don't look for me for more than 65 games. Didn't even give him 60 games. Hasn't given you at least 60 games in the season in at least the last 4 years, okay? And then the playoffs come, and this is the difference between him and a Paul George or various other people. We see them get hurt. We'll watch Kawhi drop 38 one game like he did in game 1 against Phoenix, 31 in game 2, walk off the court, and then the next thing you know, Ty Lue gets a net. He ain't available today. And oh, by the way, he ain't available next week. And he ain't available the next game. You don't know why, but you hear and you hear stories. Yes, they have a medical staff. You hear about he got his own medical team. But damn it, they should be fired. He's never healthy when it counts. And again, if you're not marketing and promoting the sport, if all you're doing is saying, I'm gonna grab my lunch pail and play, but 50% of the time you ain't grabbing your lunch pail to play. It's the worst possible thing that you can have. I'm going to say this. Devin Booker's sensation. Kevin Durant is that dude. You know how I feel about him. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George healthy for this series. Clippers win this series. Because I don't like the fact that Monty Williams is relying so much on Kevin Durant and Devin Booker averaging over 43 minutes a game. That's not sustainable to me. I think the Clippers would have won this series if both of them were healthy. That was not the case. And in the end, I think it's like, listen, you're the second largest market in the United States of America. You're in Los Angeles, man. The Lakers, it's Laker Nation, Laker Town. You know what Steve Ballmer and them got to compete against. You got an elite owner. Lawrence Frank is a well-respected executive. Ty Lue is considered one of the best coaches in the business. And this is what you got to rely on as a player. It's over for me. Like we could talk about the game and all of that stuff, but the culminating point, the end result is, to me, it should be the end. And I say that because I called some league officials this morning, and I want to know specifically, what can you do to get rid of Kawhi Leonard and make sure he get his money? He got insurance policy. Yeah, he can make it, and you could carve it out through the years, make sure he gets every penny. Just give him his money and go, because you can't rely on him. You got to move on. If you're the Clippers, you got to move on.
You might disagree, I agree with him. First of all, they would have beaten him maybe with only one of them. If Kawhi played, they could have won the series even without George. It was 1-1. They had a chance. To me, now he's going to laugh at me, but let him laugh. Willis Reed's out there on the court.
Oh, God.
Larry Bird's playing.
Oh, Lord.
You got to go play.
We weren't going there, dude.
You got to.
Oh,
Stephen, He's making $43 million a year. You just said nobody saw him get hurt. He had 38 in game 1. He had 31 in game 2.
But I'm not questioning his injury, though.
Well, I mean,
I'm not saying he's not hurt. I believe he's hurt.
Gut it out. Get out there and play. Try it. Play 10 minutes. See what you got in you. He didn't even try it. You can't do this as a playoff scenario.
But what if you really mess up your knee?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey.
And then you're done.
Willis Reed played. Bird played with concussions. Play.
It's your knee. It's a slippery slope.
I don't buy it. I'm not going there.
I don't put me in that.
No,
I didn't
I'll
go
say
there.
it.
I didn't go there. I'm not going there.
I have no problem saying it. Same thing with Zion. Windmills in the layup line. Guy's got $198 million.
Well, that's different.
To him.
That's
play the
different.
game.
That's different.
Give it a shot. I'm not asking Kawhi to play 45 minutes. Can you play 5 minutes and start the game to see if you can fight your way through it? That 36 hours before that, he had 31 points. 31, and he dominated. He played great. And the day and a half before that, he had 38, and they won. Now, so he can play 10:30 on a Thursday night, and he can't play 12:30.
Can I just say one thing before you jump in? But in the same breath, Stephen A. saying that everyone knows he's hobbled.
Everybody knows he's injured.
Who's everybody, Steve?
All the players, everybody. All the players, everybody.
So maybe that's why he's using his
No one, in fairness to Kawhi Leonard, no one has questioned the legitimacy of his injuries. Half the time they look at him and they're shocked he did play because how he was walking around the day of games. They're not questioning his injuries. They all legitimately state.
So how do we explain his great performance in the first 2 games of the series, and then he goes out 24 hours later and he can't play at home 1-1 against Durant in a playoff scenario when he's making $43 million a year for a team that has never gotten out of the conference final? You got to give it a go for a few minutes.
Well, they only got to the conference finals once.
Once. That's what I mean. Never got out of the conference final. Right. All right,
a lot to unpack. Let's hear from a former player.
There's a lot to unpack there. I mean this in the nicest way possible to both of you, but listening to each of you right now, it's very obvious that you've played 0 high-level basketball, and you do not understand the requirements of doing that. And I do mean that in a nice way.
Okay.
I'll
respond in a second.
No, hold on. You bring up Zion.
Yes.
I talked about this when we talked about Zion. You brought up Zion. Trying to play coming off a hamstring injury, a serious hamstring injury. I've had to deal with it multiple times in my career. I popped it grade 3 when I was in college. There's a weeks-long mental hurdle to come back and play. To be able to just do a simple closeout. A sprained ankle is very different than a sprained knee. A sprained knee for someone who has torn a quad tendon and who has torn their ACL is very different than someone playing on a hobbled ankle in the 1970s. It's a terrible analogy. I'm sorry. It's a terrible analogy. I want to tell a quick story real quick. Because I think you bring up the medical staff, all this stuff. When I played for Philly, when we would have off days, everybody knows I lived in Brooklyn when I played for Philly. I commuted back and forth for games and practices. But if we had an off day, I'd go up to Midtown to the NBPA, and I'd work out there with my New York trainer. A basketball guy would meet me. A weight guy would meet me. We'd work on my body, whatever. So there was a week where Kawhi was away from the team. It was coming out of All-Star break. Mm-hmm. He was away from the Spurs, and I was up there working out. He was there. When I say this dude was so meticulous in his work trying to come back from that quad tendon. I remember, I'll never forget it. I used to do walking lunges with like 50, 55-pound dumbbells in each hand. This dude is doing slow walking lunges with 90-pound dumbbells in his hands with the wrap around his quad, which limits your blood flow. This guy gets after it. I understand the frustration with the load management issue. What we're talking about here and questioning his injury, and you say, I'm not questioning his injury. You just said we saw Paul George get hurt. We didn't see Kawhi get hurt. Let's give the guy some credit. He did it in game 1. He went out there and battled game 2. Guess what? If he could play, he would play. I want to get clarification on this worst superstar. Do you not have any empathy for someone who has came back from 2 major leg injuries? Okay. Do you not?
I do.
Okay.
I'm going to answer your questions. I'm just waiting for you to finish.
Okay.
Okay.
And
by the way, to the rundown, forget any damn question you got. after this. What he just brought up on a multitude of levels, I'm responding to
Great.
this.
I just want to say
Go
one other
ahead.
thing real
Take
quick.
your time.
I just want to say one
Take
other
your
thing
time.
real quick to
Yeah.
answer the original question.
Yes.
Because I knew you were going to go off the rails here.
Okay.
And obviously I knew you would go off the rails here
Absolutely.
too. The idea of getting rid of them, I don't know what the options are for the Clippers if they were.
They're not. You can't get rid of them
Especially with Kawhi. Especially with Kawhi.
I was talking about Kawhi, not Paul George.
Let's keep in mind they're opening a new arena
Yes.
in 24-25.
Yeah.
They are the little brother in that city. I don't think they can afford to go through a full years-long rebuild and get draft capital and build through the. I don't think they can afford to do that in LA. Opening that, so they got 1,160 toilets.
Okay.
They need people to use them.
Yeah. Finish?
I'm done.
Okay.
For now.
Well, good. You know what, JJ? Let's address a few points. And to the audience out there, this is my man. I love him to death. We can disagree without being disagreeable. So y'all all calm down. We just gonna go and we gonna dissect.
I was very calm in that segment.
I told you. I told you was. I'm just
letting know the people at home before the clickbait starts.
I'm letting the people that know in advance. Well, JJ Redick, first things you first. You talked about it's very obvious that we didn't play high-level basketball.